once we have the basic layout of the engine composed, this is a good time that if you start seeing areas of the engine that you want to start filling in, this is where you can measure. Like as we put in doors here, basically you look and it's 1.5 inches, which again, this is where you constantly work on measurements. 1.5 inches, and you divide it by 2 is 3/4. 3/4. And as you see, you will constantly be measuring and practicing. And then here you kind of put the angle on the top. And these angles really, the top, you've probably seen that as you rail fan, the top of the engine angles. Then there's 3 doors here, and it's right at about 3/4, so each door is right at about 1/4 inch. And see, when you divide the 3/4 by 1/4 inch each door is the same size. And your eye catches that each door is the same size, as you kind of can see that. Each door starts to be the same size. And what that kind of does is that basically makes it so that your drawing has a sort of inherent tightness to it, that all the doors are the same size when they're supposed to be. Sometimes in certain areas, some doors are bigger and smaller. And the more you practice, the more you will see that not all doors are the same size. But as you start to look for that, like here, this area here is right at about 1 inch, which 1 inch, I divided into 30 seconds. So 1 inch is right at about 30, and there's 3 doors, so that's about 10 or 11. So you do that, 10 or 11. And basically, see again, all 3 doors are right about the same size. And as you kind of start to look at it, all the doors are about the same size as each other. And now here's where we're going to put an intake. And we put the intake in here. And as you can see, as any of you have seen as you've rail fanned, these engines just have lots and lots of access doors. And this is right at 32, which is a full inch, 32 30-seconds. And there are 4 doors, so that's 8, 32 divided by 4. But it's not as important to get so heavily into the math part as it just is when you look at it, just your eye will start to see that all the doors need to be equal. And actually, what you will realize is, as the doors start to be equal, you're getting better and better at math. And that's actually kind of an exciting thing to know, that as you are making the doors more and more equal, slowly but surely you're becoming better at math. And then this grill goes above these doors. And see, what happens is that when you want to show this to your friends, and when you want to, anything like that, there's a desire to want to make the engine basically look like the engines that you see. And part of wanting to make it look like the engines that you see is this desire to make all the doors look straight. And part of making the doors straight too is that when the lettering finally goes on the engine, if the doors are straight and the lines, especially a lot of the horizontal lines, are straight, then when you line up the word Florida East Coast on the engine, you will basically find that because you did all this measuring now, it helps in the end when you're measuring out Florida East Coast. And now we're working on this step. basically here, there's a grill on each step. And so what it is it's important when there are grills. If you take a look at the grills, you basically want to put the grills in the same place on each step. And you want the grills to be the same size, because your eye, when it looks at the engine, if the grills, if the luves on the grills are different, or if they're going at angles, your eye kind of starts to catch that kind of stuff. And the problem is that as nice as you make the engine, if you paint it the bright orange, what ends up happening is that if you have these little grills going at skewed angles, and if all of a sudden, like, one has 5 luves on it and one has 3, and they're just kind of randomly placed on there, there's sort of this look, because I've said this before in other videos, what ends up happening is that the greatest thing you're trying to achieve here is that locomotives are built by humans, but a lot of the pieces of them are machinery. They're built by humans, but the pieces ultimately are made by machines that humans control. And so the thing about it is that what you're trying to accomplish in this all is you're trying to get that machined look in your drawing. You're trying to keep lines straight. You're trying to make everything as precise as you can. And if you're trying to keep it very precise and machined as much as you can, then there's as much of a look as possible that a machine built it. But